From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
On a special edition of AgDay, meet a Kentucky farm family fighting for their future. We'll take a trip back to the heyday of the railroad in southern Indiana. A Michigan dairy is closing the parlor gates after a century of teaching, and the story behind a sharpshooting Wild West heroine.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths, and welcome to this special edition of AgDay. You know, it won't be long before combines are rolling in earnest across the Midwest, and that's especially true at the Caraway family farm in Murray, Kentucky. A husband and wife team have created a profitable business capable of withstanding all kinds of twists and turns, but this year their harvest may be extra special. Scouting a crop on a hot Kentucky day.
Yeah, it looks good. The leaves look good. I see a little bit of worm damage, but not much.
Needs some water.
Yeah, more than anything, it needs water.
Is a chance for Craig and Joanna Caraway to see the results of another season's handiwork. Their farm in Murray, Kentucky has grown thanks to steady strides in the right direction.
Didn't have to be complicated. We just got a notebook out and I sit down and I said, what's some things you want to see with the farm? What's your goals? Like, what do you want to do?
Goals written and set aside, lost for 10 years until just a few weeks ago.
I found that notebook and I got it out and I said, you got to look at this.
And she starts reading them to me and saying, and I'm like, well, we've done that. We've done that.
We have done every single thing on this list but 3.
An accomplishment that started nearly 2 decades ago.
By the time we went on our first date, we were basically planning our future.
I was going to go do something else, and it was in my blood, and I just felt it calling me back.
Taking a chance to partner with Craig's parents and setting up a lease-to-own plan with his grandmother.
That helped her with taxes, and it helped us to transition in as a stair step.
It worked really well for us.
Their very first year, 2006, was a bumper crop. The very next year, drought and a complete crop failure.
We had soybeans that I will never forget made 11.7 as an average. I have a degree in agronomy, and I thought our technology had surpassed that.
After 2007, you needed a backup plan, I guess. Is that fair to say?
We did. So we realized that tobacco, we could irrigate it on a small scale, and that would work. That could be our plan B.
So, we didn't live above our means. We didn't spend a lot of money, extra money that we didn't need to be spending.
We never bought boats, four-wheelers, any kind of extracurricular activities did not happen if it didn't make money, because that would take away from our goals. And once and I'm going to try not to get upset, so you'll have to end up editing this.
Yes, I was diagnosed in February of 2016 with brain cancer. So we've had to throw all that in the mix.
Once he was diagnosed, we realized that maybe that wasn't always the best choice.
Craig was given less than 14 months to live.
Before his first brain surgery, we sat down, and we never thought, there was no conversations of, I wish we'd have farmed more acres. I wish we'd have made more money. I wish we'd have built more barns. We didn't think of any of those. It was the vacations we didn't take, and the camping trips we didn't go on, and the things that we didn't do because our life was consumed by work.
She found specialists in Houston helped Craig get into a cutting-edge medical trial. 2 surgeries, and more than 2.5 years later, Craig is still fighting, still facing the future with his family.
So daily I get up and just thank God that I'm waking up and I'm still here for another day.
And today, it means savoring every moment, taking weekends off, going to ball games and camping. Those goals scribbled into a notebook 10 years ago, and the plans for disaster-proofing a business. Now, just a step along an uncertain path with immeasurable returns.
We didn't get there with focusing on the end. We got there focusing on what we got to do today.
Such an inspiration. Now, Craig is starting a new round of chemo. We wish them all the best. Well, stay with us. Coming up next, we'll take a trip to southern Indiana in the glory days of train travel, and later, a Michigan dairy is preparing to leave behind a century-long legacy.
AgDay, brought to you by Prosaro Fungicide from Bayer.
Before airplanes and certainly before jetliners, many people traveled by train, but those old rail lines have been abandoned. Passenger travel by train is now reserved for a select few routes. But today, Andrew McCrae shows us an old rail line in southern Indiana coming back to life and bringing with it a wealth of stories from the glory days of the railroad.
A century ago, over a dozen passenger trains and perhaps over 100 personal rail cars just like this one were traveling the rails to French Lick, Indiana. Thousands of people coming here for the healing waters and the illegal gambling that the region had to offer. While times have changed, people are still coming here, traveling the same rails to experience the French Lick Scenic Railway.
In the early 1800s, business interests in French Lick, Indiana began to tout the healing qualities of Pluto water, derived from the natural springs here. Large resorts sprouted from the countryside to house the masses who came here for their health and other reasons as well.
And then you also had about 13 different illegal casinos that dotted the area. So people coming in from Chicago especially came down to gamble. The resorts and the railroads were nice enough that if you lost all your money, you got a ticket home. You had private cars all over this area. And if you're unfamiliar what a private car means, it's a private business car. It's the same as somebody owning their own Learjet today.
The rail line ran literally right to the front porch of the French Lick Springs Hotel. But over time, better roads and waning interest in the spring water reduced the need to ride the rails here. But the trains were far from forgotten. The Indiana Railway Museum made its home here, and you can find many examples of the cars that once plied the tracks in the area. The old French Lick train station was restored, tracks readied, and the trains once again began carrying passengers.
All aboard! Well, we operate as the French Lick Scenic Railway today, mainly focused on scenic excursions and special events. Our normal rides are about an 18-mile round trip. We take you down just a little shy of Cuzco, Indiana, to our station at Gradman. There we stop for a few moments, let you stretch your legs and come back. Every once in a while there'll be a train robbery there where cowboys rob the train and hold you up.
Just for show, of course. In fact, the railway hosts many special excursions, but also offers regular service throughout the year. It harkens to a day when getting to French Lick was part of the experience one relished.
You'll see the rolling hills of southern Indiana and basically just get to sit back, relax, and enjoy travel the way it used to be. Travel was part of the vacation, not just the destination.
The boxcars here are still advertising Pluto water. While you can no longer drink it as a medicine, people are still coming to experience the railroad and see a little bit of the history and scenery of southern Indiana. Traveling the countryside in French Lick, Indiana, I'm Andrew McCrae.
Up next, a century-old dairy plans to exit the business in the face of financial challenges. We're off to Michigan to hear their story, and later we'll step across the Great Lakes to Wisconsin and a unique farming operation.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Southwest Michigan is rooted in agriculture, has everything from vegetables to fruits, even dairy. And its dairy industry is not immune to the challenges that the entire industry has faced in recent years. And as Betsy Gibbon reports, a century-old farm owned by a local college is no longer able to weather the uncertainty in the dairy industry.
Day-to-day dairy operations are powered by routine.
Do a 3 a.m. shift, 11 a.m., and then a 7 p.m.
And 3198, see if that's it.
That rhythm and routine equals success for a dairy farm.
We're preg checking right now, and then all the cows that are open, that don't have a calf, they're getting some kind of a shot to get them to come back into heat again.
The cycle of life. Over the past few years, global consistency and growing production is causing financial stress, even in Berrien County, Michigan.
But we've been shrinking too, so there's only a few left in our county.
I know of 2 friends and family that had to stop also because of that same reason. So it hits home for me a little bit.
It hits close to home for all of them. Falling milk prices aren't just hurting the average dairy. It's forcing Andrews University to close the doors on its educational dairy too.
Like much of the industry, the dairy at Andrews University has been operating below the cost of production. So much so that the university has decided to close its farm operations the summer of 2019.
I wish that, the decision makers, the board members saw it differently, but we have to think of the overall budget for the university, and I don't want to be selfish, because a lot of people are involved with this, but it's very difficult to see.
The dairy at the university was never designed to be a money maker, but stale financials and stagnant markets are making it impossible to stay open.
Overall, we need about $16 per hundredweight to break even. The reality has been, in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been 13 to 14. We've gone from that to losing between $700,000 and $900,000 per year over the last 3 years.
3 years of piling debt is now high enough to topple a century of milking.
Well, it's very disappointing. It's very sad. It's 111-year history. The dairy industry in general, as you've heard from others, is readjusting.
She would know. She was the first woman to work at the dairy decades ago.
I fed the calves, and that was an interesting experience.
Andrews University was founded in Battle Creek, Michigan, later moved to Berrien Springs for more space.
Our history as a university here in Southwest Michigan began in 1901 when we moved here. The farm started the same year, and then 6 years later, the dairy that's behind us was begun. One of the reasons that this spot was chosen was not just it was a great spot for a school, it was also a great spot for a farm.
It's hard to know how the facilities at Andrews will look a year from now.
We're working on a plan to see if we can't utilize some of these facilities for other species, llamas or goats and sheep, chickens, ducks.
And how much change will come with closure.
I've been here a total of 22 years coming this fall. I enjoy it very much. I enjoy the products, so I enjoy the job, I enjoy the work, I enjoy the cows, the people. It's all a good, nice package.
But until dairy prices rebound.
In a perfect world, you'd have air conditioning, but we don't have that kind of money.
Everyday life on U.S. dairies.
After this, I'm going to retire. I'm old enough, so I've been doing this all my life.
May see more disruptions in the future. I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Thanks, Betsy. When we come back, a unique crop from Wisconsin has found itself in the middle of a trade war, and later the story behind the Wild West heroine, Remembering Annie Oakley, coming up.
Is now the best time to sell your old equipment? Pete's Pick of the Week keeps you up to date on current market prices, making it easy for you to know when to sell your equipment for the best possible price. Text Pete6 to 31313 to get started.
Wisconsin is known for its dairy farms and cheese production, but did you know it's also leading the country in ginseng production? And it produces about 1 million pounds a year, one of those little-known crops in the U.S. with huge demand in China. Unfortunately, it's being threatened by a tariff in a trade war with China. In this video provided by the Wisconsin Counties Association, we see why Marathon County is home to so much commercially grown ginseng.
Geology, geography, climate, and plant genetics play an important role in ginseng cultivation, and central Wisconsin ginseng is among the best in the world. Marathon County is the leader in American ginseng production. In fact, 95% of U.S. ginseng is exported from Marathon County alone.
the average person, even in Marathon County, probably doesn't even realize how important it is. It's a big market. It's a big cash crop here, and it's not something that we necessarily consume ourselves. And so it's something that's kind of deceptively important to our economy.
The city of Wausau hosts an international Wisconsin Ginseng Festival every year in mid-September. Many of the activities take place right on downtown Wausau's 400 block, but there's a wide variety of tours, demos, and activities throughout the entire area.
There is over 100 years of history of growing ginseng in central Wisconsin. This is an area that the soil and the mineral content really helps bring forth some of those unique flavors in ginseng that can't be replicated in other parts of the world.
Sioux Ginseng Enterprises, a ginseng farm in rural Wausau, is able to serve customers around the world. The main consumers of ginseng historically and traditionally have been Chinese consumers, but that's quickly changing due to its health benefits.
When you talk to Chinese consumers, they know that Wisconsin grows ginseng. And that's what I think I find amazing about this product, is that it has such an international appeal, but yet so many people who live in this state don't realize that it's grown in their backyard.
I've been using it throughout my career, including when I won the French Open in 1989 as a 17-year-old. So I have a lot of good memories there, and ginseng's been playing an important role in my health and in my life ever since.
And now you know you're Wisconsin.
When we come back, walking back in time to the Wild West, remembering the talent of Annie Oakley.
In the Country, sponsored by the all-new Kubota Sidekick, a utility vehicle that lets you climb more, cover more, tow more, and enjoy more. Visit KubotaUSA.com.
The Wild West spawned all manners of heroes and heroines, from outlaws like Billy the Kid and Butch Cassidy to showmen like Buffalo Bill. Now, one of the most famous was Annie Oakley, a sharpshooter with the talent to impress. The American countryside's Andrew McCrae picks up her tale.
Annie Oakley was born in 1860 near Greenville, Ohio. Her father died when she was just 5, and the young girl wanted to hunt animals to help provide for her family.
She started hunting, and she would hunt pheasant and birds. She would hit them in the head so there would be no buckshot in the body. So it made it very good eating, and he would sell these birds to the hotels.
Marilyn Robbins knows Annie's story well, having written several books about the sharpshooter. Annie came to fame as a young woman when she was entered in a shooting contest against well-known marksman Frank Butler.
They had to shoot 25 birds, and he missed his last bird. So he only got 24, and she got 25.
Not only did the young lady from the Ohio frontier hit more birds than Butler, the two fell in love and got married. The pair would be together for nearly 50 years. At first, they performed together, and then their act caught the eye of Buffalo Bill, who hired Annie to be a part of his Wild West show. You can see Annie's amazing abilities on display here at the Garst Museum, such as the commemorative coins thrown into the air for Annie to shoot.
And all the ones that we have on display here have holes in them where Annie has shot the holes. We have cards. She would shoot the ace out of the middle of a card.
Annie shot a cigar out of the mouth of her husband, Frank. The family dog was even part of the act.
And they had a dog named Dave, and he was very trustworthy too, because they would put an apple on his head and just sit it right there on the top of his head, and he'd sit there and she'd shoot that apple off.
Annie performed in front of kings, czars, and heads of state in countries around the world. She was deeply religious and said her talent came from God and lots of practice. Many of us know Annie from the Broadway show Annie, Get Your Gun. Marilyn says we've got it all wrong.
Oh dear, yes, it was nothing like that. Annie was not anywhere near that type of woman. She wouldn't wear short sleeves. She always wore long sleeves or longer sleeves. And of course her dresses were longer. And she was just not anything like that. Annie, Get Your Gun.
Marilyn loves to tell Annie's story. Annie came from a poor family but never forgot her roots and was always willing to help others. For Marilyn, it's a story that continues to inspire her.
A lot of people would say if you could meet one person, you'd want to meet Jesus. Well, I plan on meeting him someday, but I would rather meet Annie Oakley right now.
It's been over a century since Annie Oakley was performing in front of audiences literally around the world, but her story lives on here in her home county. Traveling the countryside in Greenville, Ohio, I'm Andrew McCrae.
And that's going to wrap us up for this special edition of Ag Day. Thanks so much for watching, and from all of us here, have a great day in farm country.